welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. Hello, everybody. My name is Rod McCall.
Hey there, it's Bryce Runge.
And today we're going to talk about marriage.
Yay!
Okay, well, not exactly. Well, yeah, I guess actually
Yeah,
it is.
I would say, yeah.
We're going to call it Marriage 2.0.
Oh, getting remarried. And getting remarried with stepchildren.
You know, my granddaddy always said, marriage is a good institution for those who love to be institutionalized. I guess I loved it so much that I wanted to get remarried. I will tell you straight up, though, I love being married this second time around.
Oh my gosh, this my 2.0 has been absolutely amazing.
I will say that this time around, I thought this is what I imagined a marriage would be.
Right.
You know, growing up with my folks, they celebrated 60 years.
Congrats.
I don't know if it was this year, last year, but celebrate, they've been together forever and a day.
Oh, yeah.
And they have always been an inspiration. And when I got married, I thought, oh, yeah. Well, then, of course, looking back, I see all the red flags, and I'm going, oh, my God, what a dumbass. Why didn't I see these things? Why didn't I take a different path? Should have called it early, long before, whatever.
Right.
I will tell you that the lady, I'm married to Sherry, and she is perfect for me. Everything, I could go on and on.
Yeah, because nobody else, no one other than Sherry could put up with your BS.
No, that's probably true. But it is so, I gotta say, I took the advice that we suggested in our last episode about taking the time to get to know who is Rod McCall.
Right.
Who is he? What is he? Where does he stand? Learning to put the negatives of the last marriage, in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And take the lessons learned and try and not repeat them.
Yeah, that's huge, and that's what we were trying to drive home. Like you said in last episode was right. Take that time. For me, honestly, I have to be honest. Well, I'm always honest.
When people say they're going to be honest, that means that they were not being honest before.
Yeah, that's not what I meant, because I don't have any problem telling the truth. Okay, I know you don't have that issue either, but no, I distinctly remember saying, I'm never going to get married again.
Oh, amen.
And I am for sure as heck not going to have kids. Well, I am remarried and I have a second daughter who's due next on the 24th.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I will say that because, like what you just said, because I made time to focus on me mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, to really reflect, own the things where I made those mistakes so I don't repeat, fight for the things that I want in a marriage, right? Now I get to live in that vision. We live in that vision together because that's something that we cast, right? So, but that's, again, it's kind of funny when I look back and I'm not getting married. I'm not having kids. Well, I'm remarried. Well, I'm married and I definitely outkicked my coverage with Suzanne.
Oh yeah, I did too.
Just a beautiful, beautiful woman inside, more importantly, and out. But
the thing that I learned most, I did not communicate with my son's mother very well when things weren't going well. When she would do things or say things, I wouldn't say a whole lot, and then when I would, a lot of times it would come out very wrong, very negative, accusatory, confrontational, combative, whatever adjective you want to throw in there. But I have learned that if I got a problem If I've got something that I'm frustrated with, and I am far from perfect because I still sometimes shoot from the hip, open mouth, insert foot.
This is very true.
Tongue first and brain second. But that is a lot less than what it used to be. And I'm trying to, and I guess what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything at all, I'm slowing down.
Right.
I'm not knee-jerk reacting. I'm taking the time to slow my emotions instead of being angry or upset when I say something, to take a half step backwards, maybe wait a day. She said this, but instead of responding immediately, wait.
Right.
Wait till, the end of the day, or wait till the next day. And then when I am calm and she is calm, then I will say, look, this is what happened. This is what you said. This is what I said. This is how I felt. And I'd like to maybe take another run at whatever it is that we were talking about.
Right.
Because I'm not yelling. And I find that I yell a lot. I don't think I'm yelling. I just think I'm being very excited and, trying to get my point through. Right. But just because that's how I deliver it isn't always how it's received.
Right. No, yeah, you make a good point. And I admire that you're deciding, like you're choosing, like, hey, I want to slow down. Right. I think that's important. That's something that I'm trying to apply as well. When you're charged with emotions, and like you're not going to get very far in that conversation.
No.
It's something that my wife and I have established is that, and we had a couple trial runs on this. If we had a disagreement, we knew early on, like, well, I'm right. So we're going to butt heads, and we're not going to move the needle in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And so something that we've applied is if we're really frustrated, and maybe I'm going off on a different tangent here, but hopefully this is supple. We've decided if we feel like we're at an impasse and we're not getting anywhere, that we're going to take 10, 20 minute break, if you will. Mm-hmm. That gives us time to really reflect. And then for me, oh man, wow. I just got another citation for being stupid, right? So, but that gives us time to reflect. Then we circle back around. Hey, if we said 20 minutes, we're going to circle back around in 20 minutes. And we're calm. Mm-hmm. We've had time to reflect. Mm-hmm. Now we can communicate more effectively. Where like that wasn't the case in marriage 1.0, if you will. In fact, that was something that was brought up quite a bit. That I was a terrible communicator and whatever. Right? I think that's maybe why it's extremely important to me, because that communication aspect. Again, here we are talking about it again. Right? It's paramount.
To being honest with your feelings, and being able to express your feelings helps for me, it helps Sherry to understand where I'm coming from when she is able to express her perspective. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Right.
And when you're able to talk calmly with emotion being greatly reduced, you're able to collectively work together to come to an understanding, which then can lead to some kind of compromise or solution, because it is tough.
Right.
And
well, I think I speak for you, maybe not. You are a little more sensitive than I am. No. We didn't talk about feelings.
No.
Right. We had to put on an extra layer of skin.
We're guys.
Right. And that was what we were conditioned as, for me, conditioned as a young kid, right? And growing up, like, feelings, we don't talk about those things. No. In fact, we don't really talk that much. But, that's been a hump for me to get over. And it's like, it's okay to talk about those things. That's that's important to talk about those things, especially with your spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, hey, this one cut deep, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like you said, like, oh, your spouse, or if I've said something that hurt Suzanne or offended Suzanne in some way, she'll explain it to, oh, well, I didn't see it like that, or I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand. Oh, okay.
And I think that's the point, because for me, I ain't going through a divorce again.
Right.
No way. I will do everything in my ability to make sure that I don't go through that again. And I'm not going to swallow my emotions,
Right.
because when I swallowed that, I swallowed food, and that was unhealthy. So by being able to go, okay, let's find a solution that we can both work with.
Right.
And again, it's the key has been for me communication. Just talk.
Right.
Just talk. Explain yourself, your perspective, your point of view, and listen to the other side.
Right.
Listen, because when I listen to Sherry and listen to what she's saying, it's kind of like, oh.
Right. I know we've mentioned this before, but like Stephen R. Covey says, right? Listen. Most people listen with the intent to respond, not to understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you really go ahead, give up your right to be right.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of comes to setting boundaries too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we set boundaries with our kids, so why not set boundaries with each other? Because I think that, okay, for example, the boundaries that Sherry has with her ex, I kind of step off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
They have a relationship. They've known each other for over 30 years. So to say, hey, you can't have a relationship with them, that's kind of silly on my part.
Right.
But they do talk about the kids. They talk about, and I mean, they'll even get together. They've gotten to be friends, which is, I think, is actually quite admirable.
Right.
But they're, again, the boundaries.
Yeah.
Where I guess, I don't have boundaries with my ex because she's gone.
Right.
But there should be boundaries. You come together, you talk about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much all you really need to talk about.
Yeah.
And so therefore, but having established boundaries that you can live with.
Right. Realistic, right? And I think for me, I've tried to implement those early on. They didn't always work. Boundary lines got crossed quite a bit, I'm sure, by both parties. But again, setting those healthy boundaries and that keeping that conversation centered on what? The kid, right? That's the important thing. And then, so I don't have stepchildren, right? So all my kids, but Suzanne Braddock, she doesn't say she'll randomly say stepson, but she calls him her bonus son because he's a bonus, and he calls her bonus mom, right? Because she hooks him up with the candy or the chocolate, or they have a really good relationship. But anyways, setting those boundaries with how to parent that stepchildren. Can you touch on that?
Well, yeah, and that, boy, did I learn through failure. Having a bunch of nieces and nephews, having been a school teacher, I have always felt like I had that instant credibility, and I also had that instant level of respect. Mm-hmm. And I tried to and parent these kids. Right. And they were middle school and high school, and they were going, we don't need you. Thank you. I got a dad. I don't need you.
You're not my dad.
Yeah. And it really took me a long time. And I look back and I go, I really did. I made some mistakes. Mm-hmm. My sister remarried a guy, and I should have been more like him, more kind of just sit back, let the mom and the dad, the biological mom and dad,
Right.
do the raising. Be there more of the uncle.
Mm-hmm.
That was, but I kept going, well, shoot, we're living in the same house. And so therefore I need to exert my authority.
Right.
And that was the wrong mistake. Now, again, I think younger kids, totally different.
Yeah.
Braddock's has a stepdad, but that stepdad came along when Braddock's was much younger.
Mm-hmm.
Coming along old, like I did with Sherry's kids. I mean, we are so much better now.
Mm-hmm.
We could, they're older, but I've also learned how better to communicate. I've taken time more to get to know them.
Right.
Respect them. Again, I jumped into the deep end of the pool thinking, ooh, well, this is going to be just like it's always been with all these others. And it wasn't.
Right.
And having boundaries with them is something I did not create.
Right.
And so my suggestion, based on listening to them, listening to all the different kids that have come through my classroom that have stepmoms, stepdads, is just, again, set boundaries. Understand, like, I love what, how Suzanne says, he's my bonus son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people even go so far as, especially when they're younger, well, this is my dad. This is my mom. They're not stepmom, stepdad.
Right.
I just feel pretty good when I get introduced. Well, this is my stepdad.
Right.
Because, well, before it was, oh yeah, that's Rod.
All right.
And it's kind of like, I feel like, wow,
You made it.
Yeah. And so, but again, my biggest mistake was not setting boundaries and talking with the kids, saying, okay, what do you want from me?
Right.
What do you expect from me? And more importantly, I didn't communicate to them, this is my expectation of you.
Yeah.
This is what I want from you. And so, I mean, because stepkids can make or break a new marriage.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Developing that relationship with these kids is super important. And, maybe they're going to hate you. My stepchildren had a very strained relationship with their stepmom. But it was because how that relationship began.
Got it.
That led to a lot of hatred and animosity that has now become acceptance. I don't know maybe it's respect, but I know that, well, my dad's been married to her for 10 years. I accept her.
Right.
But it is tough. It is tough being a stepdad.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't have that. I just, knowing, through Suzanne and through her, it was a little bit harder for her, because her in the beginning was like, I didn't really think I would marry someone with a child. And that was, that was something that she had to like work through. But she, oh my gosh, she loves him. And she knows that her role is, well, one, she's a parental figure, but she's not his mom. Mom lives around the corner, a couple miles away. But she knows that her role is to be there, just to be supportive, and continue being the person that she is: kind, compassionate, caring, loving, supportive. Right? She knows that, and she knows that I do my best to keep my relationship with Braddock's mom somewhat out of our marriage, if you will. I know some may say that's not right, but for me, most of it's been toxic. And I'm in no way am I going to bring that toxicity into my new marriage. So I do my best to keep all that negativity at bay. And if I need to communicate with my wife regarding the ex, for some form or fashion, or for some reason, then I will do so.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I think it's important to not roll that stuff into my new relationship, my new marriage, if you will. Like I said, just most of it has been toxic. It's gotten better over the last year or so. But for me, that was that boundary that I set. And I explained to her, I said, look, most of it's garbage. I'm not bringing it into our marriage.
Sure.
If there's something that I feel like you need to know, then I'm going to communicate that with you. And she's been super supportive. She's always like, it really doesn't bother me. Like if you feel like you need to tell me this, then please tell me. Like I don't want you harboring all this animosity or whatever based off of the communication you had with her. But let's have that conversation. And I really, really fight to not do that because again, a lot of it's just kind of whatever, just lame stuff. And but we have gotten better over the past year, which is a positive. But anyways,
well. One of the other things that we struggled with, again, I learned how to be financially independent and on my own. Getting remarried is kind of like, well, okay, what do you do about money? Do you and Suzanne have separate accounts or a joint account?
So we currently have separate accounts. Yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Okay. And the reason why I ask is because Sherry and I do. Now, we both are at the same bank. We can see each other's accounts, but I have my account. She has her account. There are certain bills that I pay, certain bills that she pays.
Right.
And, we're happy to loan each other money when you need it. And there's no questions. She doesn't say boo about me spending money on, food or my Magic the Gathering
cards. I was just going to say that.
And I don't say anything about, the money that she gives her mother, the money she gives her kids.
Right.
It's kind of like, look, we are okay together. And we don't see a need to blend and have. Now, that being said, one of my sisters, when she got remarried, they have a blended account.
Right.
I'm okay with how we have it set up.
Right.
Because, again, we transfer money to and from each other because, again, we're at the same bank.
Yeah.
But I kind of like having, maybe it's just me being selfish, but I kind of like having, well, this is my account. This is my money, so that way
I have control over it.
Well, yeah, and if we're out to eat and I feel like, I want this little extravagance, a little add-on to the meal. Well, hell, I'm paying for it anyway. I'm buying dinner. So but when she pays for dinner, well, do you mind if I get this? Do you mind? Sure. You don't need to ask. But I feel, so for me, it's kind of, I'm respecting her by, not going, oh, well, I'm just going to do it anyway.
Right.
Where when I was married before with the joint account, well, we were both plugging money in and we were both spending money, well, a little faster than it was coming in.
Right.
So, I don't know, spending money, and that's the other thing, too. We talk about what we're going to spend money on.
Yeah.
I mean, anything over $100, we're kind of talking to each other.
Right.
When I'm paying for my college class. Before I started taking my master's classes, we talked about, this is what we're going to do. Or this is what I'd like to do. And this is how I'm going to pay for it. So that means I'll have less money for this or that.
Right.
And same way, when we're looking to do stuff with the house.
Right.
Or that big old hole in the backyard.
Fill it. Sorry, Sherry. Fill it with dirt. Put some sod over it. Call it a day.
But we're talking, we talk about, bigger expenditures.
Right.
If gas keeps going up, I'm going to have to talk to her. $62 to fill up my freaking truck. Anyway, sorry, sidebar. But when it comes...
at least you don't have a diesel.
Yeah, true. But with coming with money, we communicate more about, the expenditures, but we don't nitpick on the little stuff because I have my account, she has her account.
Right. Well, I think when you look at statistics, and one of the main causes for divorce is what? Money, right? And so marriage 1.0, that was an issue. And, I was coming off of football, and I didn't have a degree. And I'm not going to go into that whole story because I'm going to probably talk about it. Another plug for my book when I talk about my book. But yeah, going back to what you said about I'm going to get myself in a healthier place across the board, right? And so that was the same thing. And there were some times I don't know how I made it through, but like living within your means and sacrificing quite a bit. And for me, it was just about being content.
Yes.
Right. Hey, learning to live with what I have and being content with that, realizing that, if this, I don't know, how would I say that? Like trying to get all you can, right? It's just a different mentality, right? You'll never have enough.
No, but Dave Ramsey, I like some of what he says, and he says, if you live like no other, then you can live like no other.
Yeah.
And I pay cash. I got a Penny's card and I got a Kohl's card, but that's all I've got. And so therefore I don't have credit cards and I don't have massive credit card debt.
Right.
Which is what killed me. We were at over $65,000 in credit card debt when filed for separation.
Yeah.
And that doesn't count the house. That doesn't count, anything else. But I'm just credit card debt. But we never talked about money.
I was just going to say, just a little while ago, and I wanted to interject, but you were in the flow. But folks, did you hear the communication? Like, again, it's a common thread because it's so important. Like Rod, in my marriage with Suzanne, we have those conversations, whereas 1.0, we didn't really have it. Mm-hmm. And if we did talk about it, it became an argument, and it was not okay. But now it's, again, we have financial boundaries. Mm-hmm. We have a limit. If you're going to go over this limit, let's just briefly talk about it, just so we're both in the know. Mm-hmm. It's not well, I don't want you to spend that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not bragging, but we're in a much better financial situation than I was before. But we talk about it. We have a conversation. One of our goals is to, we've talked about this several times. We've met a few times to have financial one-on-ones, whether that's quarterly or monthly or whatever. We haven't done that. We still communicate about our finances. Sure, we certainly do. But we want to go in a little more in depth with that. But with our parents, and then with her being pregnant, it's just, in the year that we've had, we haven't
been tough.
Yeah. So, but that's, I think, and maybe that'll help someone, right? Have a one-on-one with your spouse. Whether that's about your life or what you guys want to do, or financial one-on-ones, I think that's crucial. But again, the common thread here is communicate.
Yeah, and it's, and that brings us to the next issue of that blended family.
Right. Being
open and honest and talking about, the roles that everybody's going to have in the new family. That is something that we really, Sherry and I did, but not maybe as well as we could have. And I think that led to some of my issues of my expectations and my expectations of my stepkids and their expectations of me. Because their stepmother was very laissez-faire, very hands-off. And they kind of expected the same from me. And it wasn't communicated very well by me or by Sherry. that I am not that kind of person. I'm kind of hands-on. So, but that was, again, once we got past that and we started talking a little bit about it, then it started working. Well, plus they got older and then they moved off to college.
Right.
And so they started living on their own. And boy, howdy, some of the stuff I was saying about turn the lights out, shut the door, some of the other things, clean up after yourself, all have kind of come around a little bit. But I think that was a mistake that we made, was not talking about the new family role, the new family dynamics.
Right.
Because it was new for all of us.
Yeah.
So, again, my suggestion would be learn from my mistake at least, and have those open communications about expectations.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that, and that's the funny thing about expectations. You got me thinking. It's like we expect certain things. It's like filling a box with our expectations and putting the lap in the lap of a spouse or a kid, and like, hey, I need you to fulfill all these things. Well, no, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. But something that we've done is we've sat down and like we're going to create a Runge vision. Like, what's our mission? Like, how are we going to operate within our family dynamic, and then how are we going to operate in society? Right.
Well, what is that family dynamic? Defining the family dynamic to know how to operate.
Yeah.
And again, I think that I am so glad you guys do that, because I think it will help make for a happier home.
Right. And I think, when you talk about, when I've mentioned it, is what? Really? That's crazy or bizarre. Why would you have a family vision or a mission statement or whatever? Well, look at successful businesses, organizations, sports teams. Look at them all.
Yeah.
Look at the success that they have.
You're on the same page. And
what foundation did they pour?
Thank you. You don't have to, it doesn't necessarily even have to be called a vision, but this is what we would like to do. This is what we would like to achieve.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we want a happy home.
Right.
We want a happy family. And if everybody has input, everybody has buy-in, everybody knows what to expect from each other.
Exactly.
And it makes that marriage 2.0 with your new spouse and potentially new children, something much more enjoyable.
Right. And again, our goal, our mission is to equip families with tools to better relate, to better communicate with one another, so that in turn that your family thrives. But I think that's a powerful piece. And again, it's that communication thing, right? Yeah.
Open communication and open dialogue.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our episode for today. Thank you very much for listening. Tune in. We got more to come.
We definitely do. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace out.